He's a columnist at Nashville Voice, also a writer and reporter at Pro Player Insiders, and a writer at Sports Awakening and host of the Touring the AFC South podcast. I want to welcome to the show Mike Patton. What's up, Mike? How are you, brother?
What's going on, man? You can throw on there sports history in black as well for the NABJ website, Black News and Views too, man. I do a lot,
Okay,
man.
yeah, man, you got a lot going on, man. I love it, man. But let's start off, man. Let's get right to it, man. Let's talk about NFC South. And so last year in the NFC South, Mike, the Titans they finished 12-5. They lost in the divisional round of the playoffs to the Bengals. The Colts last year they finished 9-8. They lost a Week 18 matchup, missed the playoffs. Texans finished 4-13. Jaguars finished 3-14. And so I want to read that Vegas odds real quick. They got for the winning division. They got the Colts favorite. Then they got Tennessee. They got Jacksonville. And they got the Texans. So let's start off with the Colts. They brought in Matt Ryan. They traded Carson Wentz to Washington. Do you believe the Colts trading for Matt Ryan is a move that will help them become a playoff team in the AFC?
I definitely think that move allowed them to be a playoff team this year. With the addition of Matt Ryan, you have a smarter quarterback in terms of thinking the game. Yeah. Doesn't take as many chances, takes advantage of what the defense gives him, and is a coach on the field. Carson Wentz may have more ability, but he doesn't think the game quite as much as Matt Ryan. So that alone is going to make your team and offense better.
So when it comes to Matt Ryan as a quarterback, Mike, for his career, he got 367 touchdowns, 170 interceptions, 59,735 passing yards, completing 66% of his passes. You know, he won NFL MVP back in 2016. Came up short in the Super Bowl after being up 28-3. But do you believe that he has something left in the tank as an individual to have a bounce back season in Indianapolis?
He has something left in the tank. I think his MVP days are definitely long gone. I definitely think he has something left in the tank. The question is, how many years does he have left in the tank? I think he at least has one. But past that, I can't give you a definite answer for what he has left in the tank, to be honest.
Yeah, because I always thought Matt Ryan, Mike, he's not elite like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady, you know, like or even a Patrick Mahomes. But I always thought Matt Ryan was a good quarterback that you could win a Super Bowl with, kind of like Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson. Like I don't think they are necessarily elite, but I think they are good quarterbacks who you can win a Super Bowl with if certain things go your way. So I think he's definitely an upgrade, you know, at quarterback over Carson Wentz. Especially because last year I thought Carson Wentz turned the ball over way too much.
It wasn't necessarily that he turned the ball over way too much because he didn't have a ton of interceptions. The thing was he had untimely turnovers.
Yeah.
Meaning they were just at the wrong times. Give you a prime example of that. I mean, he throws the ball to the Titans when they're trying to, you know, win the game in overtime. He throws the ball and basically Kevin Byard basically baits him into that throw.
Yeah.
Kicks that pass off. I mean, he makes some just decisions that make you scratch your head when it comes to winning time, like he's trying to be the hero instead of trying to make the right play. So that aspect of Carson Wentz is gone and moved on to the Washington Commanders, and now maybe they have a smarter quarterback in terms of those type of situations in Matt Ryan, which will kind of help them stay on schedule, perhaps.
Agreed. Carson Wentz actually only had 7 interceptions last year, but he did have a few fumbles, and you're right about the horrible turnovers at bad times for the Colts last year. Now, obviously, Mike, this team is led by running back Jonathan Taylor, who is arguably the best running back in the NFL, and he had over 1,000 yards rushing in the first 2 years of his career, 29 touchdowns so far as well. How does Jonathan Taylor's performance impact this entire Colts offense?
Well, it definitely impacts the offense because it puts everybody in positions to succeed. If the running game is working, of course, you know, that's provided the offensive line is healthy, you know, Quentin Nelson, you know, I want to point that. But, you know, it puts everything in perspective where the offensive line doesn't feel pressure to be a standout pass blocking offensive line, which, you know, to be honest, they really aren't a standout pass blocking offense. It puts the play action pass in there to give those tight ends extra room to get open. give you wide receivers, extra space across the middle of the field and behind the linebackers as well. So it kind of everything works through Jonathan Taylor because it gives everyone else that little additional edge they need to kind of get open or make plays on their own. That's where I would say, yeah, Jonathan Taylor helps and affects that entire offense.
They got nice receivers, Pittman and Paris Campbell. I like Alec Pierce. He played at the University of Cincinnati here in Cincy, with Luke Fickell. And so they got Mo Alley Cox at tight end. Who do you believe will be Matt Ryan's most reliable target this season?
Honestly, it's going to be Michael Pittman Jr. by default because, honestly, I know you mentioned Paris Campbell, but Paris Campbell can't stay healthy. That's the biggest thing with him. If he can stay healthy, I'd be like, okay, cool, you can count on him. But until he does that, I can't really say, hey, he's a reliable target. As far as Alec Pierce, he's still growing and has some things to learn. So I can't necessarily say he'll be a dependable target. So by default, it'll be Michael Pittman Jr. And Mo Alley Cox, as much as they paid him to stay there in Indianapolis, but has he really been a guy that's just like, okay, cool, he's going to be a reliable pass catching guy? I mean, he's not necessarily that guy. I would say the guy behind him and Jelani Woods is the guy that eventually will take over and be the starting tight end. But I don't know if it'll be this year, but definitely will be next year in my opinion.
Yeah, Kylan Grandson as well at tight end on that depth chart too. So, we'll see if he can also produce for them. Now let's switch sides of the ball. Let's talk about their defense. They're led by defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, and they got Shaquille Leonard at linebacker. They signed Stephon Gilmore in free agency. They still got DeVorest Buckner, and they got Ndakwe up front as well. And they got one of the best slot corners in the NFL in Kenny Moore. What's your expectations for this Colts defense?
Well, expectation is for them to be top 10 at least this year. The biggest thing that's going to contribute to that, I would say, they do have the pieces. In Ndakwe, you have Kwity Paye, you have DeForest Buckner on the line. You have Shaquille Leonard, you have Okirike at linebacker, you have corners, Stephon Gilmore, Kenny Moore, two of the top corners around. The only question I would have is the safety spot and putting pressure on the quarterback because those are the two things that are going to be in question this year. I mean, you have a rookie that potentially is going to be starting at one of the safety spots. You don't really have a wealth of talent at the safety spot, just to be honest. Kwity Paye, he's still trying to figure it out. Some say he figured it out towards the end of last year, but we got to see. In Ndakwe, I know he's talented, but he's been on 4 teams in the past 4 or 5 years.
Only with the Raiders last year.
He was with the Raiders last year. Yeah, he played for the defensive coordinator that actually is for the Colts now, and Gus Bradley. So that ought to be interesting in its own right, being that he's playing in the same defense for the second year in a row. So that's the questions I have with that defense, but they do have the potential to be a top 5 defense, top 10 at the worst.
Colts over and under is 9.5. Are you taking the over or the under for the Colts win totals this season? What you got their final record being this year?
I'm taking over, and I've got them at 11-6 this year to win the division.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans. To the Bengals in the division around the playoffs. They're led by Ryan Tannehill. Last year, he had 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. It was awful, in the playoff game against the Bengals. He definitely, in my opinion, he cost the Titans a berth in the AFC Championship last year. What are your expectations for Ryan Tannehill this year, Mike?
I got the opportunity to go out to training camp and also to a OTA.
Okay.
And got a chance to see him perform. And he talked a lot about, how the end of last year had attacks on him mentally. He actually did go to therapy, to be honest, to actually talk about it, go through it, and kind of get rid of it going into this year. And so he seems kind of a little bit different in terms of how he's carrying himself.
Okay.
So I would say that going into this year, I kind of, expect him to kind of revert back to the Tannehill that took over for Marcus Mariota way back when. I don't think he'll be fully that guy, but I think he'll take back to that guy as opposed to being the guy we saw last year who was, making mistakes, did have a bad playoff game overall. So I think that'll be more the guy that you expect to see from him. And the thing that's also going to be interesting is looking at the variety of weapons that he has. Now, I know people have talked about the Tennessee Titans, they really don't have any weapons. They got rid of AJ Brown
Yeah.
via trade to the Philadelphia Eagles. Julio Jones, they let him go in the off season. And who do they have? They have Robert Woods, and they have Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips and all these different guys. But I'm like, watching these guys work, it's good because you can't focus on one guy, and all of these guys work and can be options to have games.
Well, that actually led me to my next question there, Mike, and I'm actually one of those people that has questions about Titans receiving core. I mean, they traded AJ Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. They traded for Robert Woods from the Rams. They got Treylon Burks, rookie receiver out of Arkansas. They got Nick Westbrook as well in the slot. Who do you believe will emerge as their number one receiver now that AJ Brown is in Philly? Like, who you think is going to be that number one reliable target for Ryan Tannehill?
Well, honestly, after talking to, I did a Titans preview last week, talking to Teron Davenport, who actually covers the team, and he brought up a very valuable point, a very great point, is that there may not be a number one receiver on this team. The reason that's a good thing, though, is because you may have one guy step up one week, one guy step up the next week, and you have a variety of different weapons that can jump out there and do different things.
Yeah.
So, in all actuality, there's not a number one wide receiver on the team, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either for them because they have actually more weapons on this team than they had last year. Last year, you had, of course you have Derrick Henry, but you had AJ Brown, you had Julio Jones, and then Nick Westbrook McKinney, and after that you really couldn't name anybody. This year you have Robert Woods, you have Treylon Burks, you have Kyle Phillips, you have Nick Westbrook McKinney, you got Racing McMath when he becomes healthy, potentially a Josh Gordon if he's signed to the 53-man roster, which he's on the practice squad now. You have Derrick Henry, you have Hilliard out the backfield. You have a Hooper at tight end, a Chigakwanku, a rookie out of Maryland at tight end. You have a lot of different variety of weapons for the Titans this year offensively, and a lot of different versatile weapons as well. So that's where I could say, what to those that are like, oh, the wide receiver core, I've got questions. I mean, there was a lot of questions last year too. If you want to be honest, there was a lot of questions besides the third wide receiver until Westbrook McKinney kind of proved himself.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when you look at Derrick Henry, obviously many people believe that you can make a legit argument that Derrick Henry is the best running back in the NFL. Mike, he missed 9 games last year because of a broken bone in his foot. He still had almost 1,000 yards rushing. And so this is kind of a two-part question. One, how important is Derrick Henry to this Titans offense being able to flourish? And also, do you believe as the season goes along, do you believe Mike Vrabel should try to, dial back some of his carries so you can have him for the latter part of the season once we get into December and January so he can be fresh come playoff time?
Well, the first part of the question, he's very important to this offense because they are a run-first offense. They've been that way going all the way back to the Eddie George days. I mean, they had a couple years where McNair was putting up numbers, throwing the football, and where he was actually a co-MVP with Peyton Manning. But other than that, they have been a run-first football team from the Eddie Georges to the Marco Murrays, the Chris Johnsons, and the Derrick Henrys, and so on and so forth. So Derrick Henry is vital to this offense because, like Jonathan Taylor, he is the engine behind the offense. He makes everything a little easier for everyone else around him. And, it's ironic that both of these teams at the top of the division kind of mirror each other. But, definitely that's he's very important in the offense, and, he's going to be key to a lot of different things they do. It's going to be interesting also to see this year how the versatile pieces, they put those in motion around Derrick Henry, and if he's always the key to everything as the season goes on. That'll be key to watch. As far as the second question, dialing things back, Derrick Henry is a volume running back. Derrick Henry's not a guy that's going to give you 10 carries and he's going to go for 115 yards. He's not a guy like Chris Johnson that could give you like 10, 15 carries and then go for 160 yards and then call it a day. He's a guy that wears and wears and wears on you because those 2 or 3 yard runs in the first half turned into 6, 7, 10 yards, and then that big one in the second half.
Yeah.
You notice most of his long runs always come in the second half of the game where teams are tired of tackling him.
Absolutely.
So to me, I would say they're probably not going to dial back on his carries. Sure, it would be nice to throw Hilliard in there, and they do have a guy from Michigan this year as a backup running back. His name is escaping me right now. I don't know why. But anyway, they do have a lot more depth in the running back room, so they can potentially give him breaks, and they do have a gentleman that can come in there and do some of the same things that he does. Maybe not quite as big as Derrick Henry, which, by the way, he is bigger this year. A lot of different reports, and from what I've seen, he definitely does look bigger. Wow. Yes, he looks bigger. That'll be interesting in its own right. And plus he's not the most. I wouldn't say he's unhappy, but he's not. He feels like he's got something to prove. It just seems like he's got something to prove this year more than anything, which is different from previous years with Derrick Henry and the success he's had. So, that part will be interesting, but I don't expect the dial back of carries to happen. I don't expect that.
Wow, man, that's going to be interesting to see, man. Motivated Derrick Henry. Oh, it's going to be scary for some opposing defense.
Not that he isn't motivated. I don't want to put it out there that he's not motivated, but he's got a little more extra incentive, I should say.
Yeah, playing with a chip on the shoulder. I definitely understand that. I think you're probably talking about Hassan Haskins.
Yes, Haskins.
Yeah. So I think he's on that depth chart as well. So do you expect him to be able to have an impact on the Titans offense this year?
I don't expect him to have a big impact on the offense because Hilliard is the backup running back. Hilliard's the guy that's going to come in. I don't expect him to take over series or anything like that, but coming on third down, maybe run a few things out of the backfield, stuff like that, maybe a draw, things like that. But Derrick Henry's the man of this offense at the running back position, and everyone else is on the fall line. I believe Haskins has the ability to actually do things that Derrick Henry does in terms of lining up there. But the caveat to that is he's actually proven to be a better pass catcher than the Titans, I think, may have realized.
Okay. Because I think actually last year, if I'm not mistaken, Haskins, he had a great game in the season finale against Ohio State for the Michigan Wolverines. I think he had a great, outstanding game last year in that game. So let's talk about the offensive line. One of the better offensive lines in the NFL, led by center Ben Jones. They got guard Aaron Brewer and right guard Nate Davis, left tackle Taylor Lewan, and right tackle Nicholas Pettit. So what are your expectations for the Tennessee Titans offensive line this year?
It's definitely a little bit different offensive line because, of course, gone are the vets up front. They definitely lost a vet up front to Buffalo Bills this offseason. Patton Ferrer beat out Dylan Radunz to gain the starting right tackle spot. He is a rookie from our left tackle spot. I'm sorry. He's a rookie from Ohio State. So he actually ended up beating Dylan Radunz out at that position to get that spot. So it's going to be a little bit different. Aaron Brewer's definitely different than Saffold is what I was getting to. But Saffold got released this offseason, and he's playing for Buffalo Bills. But he's smaller than Saffold, but he gets in there and gets little fits. I was listening to Teron Davenport again, who covers the team and does a great job. He actually was talking about the differences between Saffold and Brewer. And Saffold is a guy that's just a mauler, going to get in there and blow people out of holes. Brewer's more a smaller guy, a positional guy that actually gets in there and walls people off for holes. So the hole might not be quite as big, but it's still a hole there. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch to see how Derrick Henry adjusts to a different set of people blocking for him and how Patton Ferrer deals with being a guy that's more than likely going to be targeted because he is a rookie playing tackle in the NFL. So that'll be interesting to watch. I think they'll still be solid, but they're going to have their moments in my opinion.
He's a columnist at the Nashville Voice, also a writer and reporter at Pro Player Insiders, and the host of the Touring the AFC South podcast. Joining me tonight on the Wise Guys Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Network is Mike Patton. Mac, let's switch gears and talk defense for the Tennessee Titans. Defensively, they are led by Shane Bowen, and most people believe they will be a top 5 defense with their dominant front seven led by Jeffrey Simmons. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. They did lose Harold Landry to a torn ACL, so that's going to be devastating for that defense. But they still got Bud Dupree, who is a good pass rusher, and their secondary led by free safety Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker. So what is your expectations for the Titans defense this year?
Well, I will say this: the Harold Landry injury to torn ACL was last Wednesday at practice, and definitely a big loss. Kevin Byard did talk about it. He talked about, of course they do have to move forward, but he didn't want to just jump over it and talk about, talk about the injury. Losing one of his brothers on the field.
Yeah,
but they do have a young man in Rashad Weaver that is chomping at the bit to replace him. And this young man missed a lot of last year. So this is almost like his rookie year over again. They're very excited about him. So now he gets extended playing time. And to be honest, I believe he could come in and actually produce 8 to 10 sacks potentially.
Okay.
To go along with him, then you have Jeffrey Simmons, of course. You have Bud Dupree, who actually is healthy to start the year. Last year, he did talk about how he didn't really feel kind of healthy until the end of the year, the last game of the regular season.
Yeah.
So this year he come in, he's fully healthy the entire year. The back end of the defense is going to be interesting as well, but they're going to be a defense that's going to be a top 5 defense in my opinion, just because of the different levels, the different experience at the different levels, which of course it is overlooked that they do have Zach Cunningham and David Long Jr., who are very speedy linebackers, very smart linebackers, and guys that can make plays and big pops as well. So they have experience, explosiveness, and they have playmakers at all 3 levels, which is a key element for being a top 5 defense.
Absolutely. And I think last year was Bud Dupree's first season, after he suffered a torn ACL the year before. So, yeah, it takes a while to get back. And so that's interesting. He said he wasn't all the way, feeling 100% healthy until the last game of the season. What level of this Titans defense will be the strength of the team, Mike?
You got your front 3 and your outside linebackers. Those will be the strength of this team, because last year, if you notice, they didn't really blitz a lot. They really got pressure with their front.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the key. If they're having to blitz to get pressure, then that leaves young corners out there on the island. You've got Caleb Farley, who's, of course, being healthy for this year. And I will say he noticeably looks bigger as well. You notice he put on a little bit more weight since he was out with his ACL in terms of not bad weight, but good weight in terms of muscled up, things like that.
Yeah.
He says about 190, but I would say, he looks bigger than that. But he still can move. So it'll be probably him starting out the season. You will see Roger McCreary, the rookie from Auburn, in the mix. And then also, of course, Christian Fulton, who's probably a little bit a little bit underrated to me, because he is definitely talented and kind of held down being the number 1 corner without officially being the number 1 corner for them last season. So that'll be the front 4 that got to be effective, because you don't want to leave those corners out there on islands all the time. And of course, with a little bit of youth out there, you don't want to do that, because for those that aren't aware, Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker, those are probably your vets in the secondary. Everybody else is pretty young.
Yeah, for sure. Offensively or defensively, Mike, what's the one thing that has to happen for the Titans to have a successful season? One thing that you would pinpoint that has to happen for this team to be successful this year?
Offensively, I'd say value the football. Can't have Tannehill out here turning over the football. Can't have any fumbles. Got to take care of the football in order to win games. I probably sound like Mike Vrabel. As far as defensively, getting pressure with your front, that's going to be huge. That's going to be a key to the season. Last year, they were one of the best in the NFL of getting pressure without having to blitz. This year, I believe they can do some of the same things. I will tell you also, Jeffrey Simmons is slimmer this year. He's not 300 some odd pounds this year. He's a little slimmer this year than he was last year, but that's with the kind of the assumption of trying to, I guess, get a little bit more quicker into the backfield. He still has the power per him, but he's wanting to get quicker in the backfield and be able to make plays, not just sack the quarterback, but be able to strip the football as well. So that's one thing he's kind of trying to add to his repertoire this year, which if he's able to do that along with the rest of this front, it's going to be mighty tough days for a lot of the people.
Now, before I get to your prediction for the Titans this year, Mike, I got to ask you about Malik Willis because Ryan Tannehill was so awful in that playoff game. I mean, defensively, I think the Titans sacked Burrow at least 7 times in that game. I think nine. Okay, 9. All right. Well, they sacked Burrow 9 times in that game. And usually, if your defense, is able to get 9 sacks, normally that means you win playoff games. And so I thought Ryan Tannehill, single-handedly handed the Bengals their ticket to the AFC Championship game. I thought throughout the offseason, Ryan Tannehill honestly should have been ashamed to show his face, in the city of Nashville. That's how bad he was in that playoff game. If Tannehill struggles during the season, do you think there's any chance or a possibility that we see Malik Willis this season?
I know a lot of people are not going to like to hear this, but no.
Okay.
This is unless there's like a special package for him. No. The reason why I say that is this. You want to put Malik Willis in the best chance to succeed. I know he's done some great things in the preseason. I know he's made some spectacular plays, but also you have to remember, he is a rookie.
Yeah.
I don't care if he was supposed to have a first-round grade or not. He is still a rookie. He's coming from an offense that was a one-read offense at Liberty to an offense where he has to go through multiple reads and then get down the field or do what he's going to do. That doesn't happen overnight. Now, I will also say that he has grown since he has been here. Now, of course, from some things like accuracy to calling the plays to, being able to diagnose things on the field, he's grown in that arena. But if you put him out here as a rookie, you're not doing him a great service as well in terms of his career. I believe that next year will probably be the year for him to take over, but not this year. Let him sit, let him learn, let him grow, and then go from there. Because if you put him out there before he's ready, then you take a really big chance of ruining him, and then you're back drafting another quarterback again, and then waiting in another year, and then doing this and doing that.
Yeah.
So the only way I see him taking the field is if Ryan Tannehill gets hurt. That's the only way I see him taking the field, and even at that point, it will be probably a toned down offense that he'll be running. So that's what I see. That's what I know. I know a lot of people are like Ryan Tannehill this, Ryan Tannehill that, Ryan Tannehill that, but I'm like this. Look at folks.
Yeah.
He has the biggest cap hit in the NFL at quarterback. He was not going anywhere, even if you wanted him to go anywhere.
Right.
So you just got to suck it up and take it. Now, this offseason, after this one, I could see that coming, but not this past offseason.
No. And a lot of times, though, Mike, too, these quarterbacks who perform well in these preseason games, these rookie quarterbacks that perform well in these preseason games, you got to take it with a grain of salt because they're going up against backups. They're going up against a lot of dudes who not even going to be on the team once week 1 comes. So you got to think about that and take that into consideration as well. So that's also important. So Titans over under at 9.5. Are you taking the over or the under for the Titans win totals this year? What you got their record at?
I'm taking the over, and I'm taking 10-7 for the Titans this year.
10-7. Okay. Playoff team?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Wild card.
Okay. Now, got a couple more questions for you. I ain't got much left, Mike, because we got the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. So I ain't got much left. But let's start off with Jacksonville. They finished 3-14 last year. They brought in a Super Bowl winning head coach in Doug Peterson. They are only favored in 2 games this season. What are your expectations for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Honestly, I think they will be better. I honestly think that the Jacksonville Jaguars will be a more professional-looking team this year. Of course, that's just going to be on the strength of the coach not being into shenanigans like he was last season. Doug Peterson's not that guy. Also, this offseason, they did take a chance on bringing more playmakers in. You brought in Zay Jones. You brought in Christian Kirk. Say what you want about him, but hey, he's more competent than what they
overpaid. They paid him a lot of money.
I hear you there. But also what I will tell you is that he's only accounting for a base salary of about $1.5 million this year. So, take that into consideration as you think about all the pieces that they got around him. And technically, his deal is only a 2-year, $39 million deal. And with the $1.5 million that he's getting this year, and you also have to factor in the signing bonus. So when you break all those factors down it doesn't seem quite as bad, even though it is bad. So, and then also, of course, I would say that, the biggest weapon I think they took a chance on bringing in, Evan Ingram's talented. That's without question. He definitely can run around like a wide receiver, he's a tight end. Biggest thing with him is actually seeing and catching the football. Yeah. And I think he knows this is his time to shine. He's on a 1-year deal. He's got a chance to make big money. That cap is going to be going up with TV money. And the biggest thing is Trevor Lawrence's biggest weapon he used last year, the tight end, Dan Arnold.
Yep.
Replace Dan Arnold with a more capable tight end. Hey, you might have some action going.
I actually liked the Jaguars' move, and I think they upgraded. Obviously, it wasn't nothing that they had to do to improve drastically. Because you go from they had Urban Meyer last year. It was a mess last year down there in Jacksonville to Doug Peterson. I like Doug, Mike. I really, really do. For his career, 42, 37-1, so he's won 53% of his games. He won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, for crying out loud. So I like Doug. I like Doug, and I think he's going to help with the progression of Trevor Lawrence. So what do you believe that Doug Peterson is going to bring to that Jacksonville Jaguars team for them to improve this year?
Well, definitely professionalism. And one thing I definitely will say, he can tutor Trevor in terms of kind of seeing the field a little better because, as you mentioned, Nick Foles there winning a Super Bowl, which I actually was covering that Super Bowl, by the way. He also turned Carson Wentz into a MVP level quarterback. I would say that he could definitely do some of the same things potentially with Trevor Lawrence. I know people are going to say it's Jacksonville. I know, but Trevor Lawrence is still a talented quarterback. It doesn't matter what uniform you put on.
Yeah.
So I would say that he's definitely going to do that. And then the biggest thing I would say is the running game. The commitment to the running game, I think, is going to be huge, especially with the upgrades. You bring in Brandon Scherff from Washington Commanders. You sign Cam Robinson to a new deal. You draft a center out of Kentucky to be your starting center more than likely. They committed to being better up front. And I think that running game with ETN and James Robinson is going to be hugely key and a good thing for the Jaguars under Doug Peterson, provided he uses it a lot.
Yeah.
Provided he uses it.
Now, Trevor Lawrence, as a young quarterback in the NFL, Mike, last year, 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 3,641 passing yards. He completed 60% of his passes. He was a rookie. It was his first season, so obviously he struggled. But, do you believe in Trevor Lawrence, as a franchise quarterback? And what do you believe that he has to improve on specifically in his sophomore season so he can be better than he was in his rookie season?
Well, I definitely believe he can be a franchise quarterback. He has all the ability in terms of the tools and things like that. The one thing I would think, a couple things he needs to improve on, just his selection in terms of what he throws and what he doesn't throw. Somebody was showing a film about him throwing the football, and it was a beautiful pass, and he barely got it over the outstretched arm of a defender with his wide receiver catching it right over the top of him. Now, beautiful pass, but is he going to take a chance to do that every single game?
Right.
If he's going to take a chance to do that every single game, then he might end up with the same numbers he had last year, which isn't good. I think with Doug, he'll kind of pare things down a little bit for him, bring him down, kind of understand, hey, take what the defense can give you. You're just going to take shots from time to time, but take calculated ones, not careless ones. So with that being said, he'll definitely take the more calculated shots and definitely kind of grow more towards that franchise player to me. And if you like, I definitely got a touchdown to interception prediction for him too.
What you got?
25 touchdowns this year, and I got maybe 10 to 12 interceptions.
Okay. That would be a significant improvement from his rookie season to his sophomore season for Trevor Lawrence.
Definitely. That just speaks to the belief I have that the Jacksonville Jaguars cannot be as bad as they were last year.
What's their record? What you got them finishing at their record going to be this year, Mike?
All right. I've got them finishing 8-9 this year.
Wow. What? You got them at 8-9? Major improvement than it was previous last year. That's a major improvement, Mike.
Well, they've got talent. They've got talent. Defensively, they've added some talent too. I think Cisco at the safety spot. No, not Cisco from Drew Hill. Cisco from Syracuse. At the safety spot. But yeah, he's gonna be a big addition, I believe, to that defense. Then you also got Griffin. You've got Tyson Campbell. You've got Williams you bring in from the Rams to play cornerback for them. That's three pretty solid corners in its own right. You have Olaquan you bring in from the Falcons to play your middle linebacker spot.
Yeah.
Trayvon Walker, you put him there on your along your defensive line. And the last time that Josh Allen, no, not Josh Allen Buffalo, Josh Allen in Jacksonville. Last time Josh Allen had a comparable, defensive guy on the opposite side of him to provide pressure, which ironically is Ndakwe that's in Indianapolis. He had 10.5 sacks. That was his rookie season. Now he has somebody opposite him. So I think Mr. Allen gets loose on that opposite side, and he's going to get double-digit sacks this year, in my opinion.
Man, that's 8-9 is impressive for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I know. I said it with my chest, man. Read my shirt. It says unafraid.
I see it for sure. Now we only got a few more minutes, but we got a few more minutes. That's all we need to give the Houston Texans. That's how bad they're going to be. I recently listened to your podcast on touring the AFC South, and you had on AJ Jones, and he's an insider, down there in Houston, and y'all discussed the Houston Texans in depth. And y'all talked about the drama surrounding the organization with David Culley in the front office, and you had the Deshaun Watson situation. This year, I think Texans fans, they're more than anything, they are praying to be drama-free. That's the main thing for them. They got Lovie Smith now, in his first year as head coach. What are your expectations for Lovie Smith as the head coach in Houston?
Well, Lovie Smith is going to be more of a caretaker of this team. He's more in tune with his players, I would say, than Bill O'Brien. I can't say that David Culley was or wasn't in tune with players. I think the players love playing for him. It's just the organization wasn't necessarily bought into him. I think in this instance, the organization is bought into Lovie, and the players are in tune with him. So you kind of get the best of both worlds from different places. I think you can expect a guy that's going to have his players leave it all on the field every single game, a guy that's going to be a stand-up guy, and he's just going to be a coach's coach on that team. So, they're bought into him apparently. So, hey, I'm rooting for Lovie to at least get more than one season, because we don't want another David Culley situation.
Agreed. Couple more questions for you on the Houston Texans. He's a columnist at the Nashville Voice, also a writer and reporter at Pro Player Insiders, and a writer at Sports Awakening. Host of the Touring the AFC South podcast. He's Mike Patton, joining me tonight on Wise Guys on the Worldwide Sports Network. So, Mike, offensively, Texas, they're led by David Mills. In his rookie season, he had 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He had 2,164 passing yards, completing 67% of his passes. He only played in 11 games. He replaced Tyrod Taylor. How do you feel about how Mills performed last year, and what's your expectations for him this season?
Well, the biggest worry that comes to mind is inconsistent. I mean, he had but he's a rookie, so that was to be expected.
Yeah.
He had a few games where he came out and, hey, maybe this guy has something. In other games, you're like, okay, he throws 4 interceptions. And you're like, oh, he ain't it. Apparently, in this offseason, he came in with a little bit more, swagger to him. A guy that knows he is the starting quarterback for this season at least. So you expect a little bit more focus, a little bit more direction in terms of him being the leader of the offense. The de facto leader because he's the quarterback. But so I expect him to kind of be a little bit more decisive with things because he knows the offense. He does have Pep Hamilton as his offensive coordinator, who did develop Andrew Luck, by the way, folks. Yeah. So that's going to help him as well in terms of his development. So I would expect him to go out here and kind of build upon how he did last year, maybe cut down on mistakes and do a few more things with the football. Do I expect it leads to a ton of wins? No. Yeah. Do I expect him to be better? Potentially. Does he have the ability? Yes, he has the ability. But we'll see if that turns out to be, numbers-wise, a better season for him or not.
Now, I heard you, Mike. I heard you say that Brandon Cooks is the best receiver in the AFC South. And initially, Mike, I was like, what? But honestly, Mike, the more I thought about it, I had to agree with you. I'm like, what? Now, he actually got a point there. He got a valid point. Brandon Cooks is the best receiver in the AFC South, especially now with the departure of A.J. Brown now, being in Philadelphia. And so, who do you believe in this Texans offense is going to be another reliable target for David Mills besides Brandon Cook?
Honestly, that's still to be written. From talking to AJ about the Texans, Nico Collins hasn't necessarily stepped up the way they thought he would. He kind of ended the season on a high note, but he didn't start the offseason and this preseason on the high note he left. Kind of hurts that John Mechie's not going to be out there. Prayers up for him as he battles cancer. Brevin Jordan, a guy that they're kind of not, they don't know what they're going to get from him.
Yeah.
But I will say this is an opportunity for O.J. Howard. They just signed him. So this is an opportunity for Mr. O.J. Howard to kind of go back to his Alabama days catching the football. So this could potentially be a place where he thrives and is an opportunity for him to make some money. So that's a guy I would say that could potentially step up and be the guy. Other than that, it's a mixed bag when it comes to the wide receiver room and the guys that can step up and potentially make plays outside of Brandon Cooks.
So, what are your win totals for the Houston Texans this year, Mike? What you got them finishing at?
I know I'm probably going to blow your mind with this one, but I got them winning 5 games.
Wow.
Here's the reason why. They do have Dameon Pierce run the football. I'm not sold on him, by the way. I know he's a rookie. Yeah. I know he's done a lot of great things, but he's doing a lot of great things, like AJ said, against guys that are trying to make the team, right? Not guys that have already made the team. So we'll see what happens there. But I think Davis Mills will have some moments this year that'll help them win some games. And you got to also remember the defenses that Lovie Smith has also been around. Remember the things that he likes to do. He likes to create turnovers. Yeah. His defense, he has Jerry Hughes, a veteran defensive end. He has Grenard on the opposite side, who was their leading sack guy with 8.5 sacks, but only played like 11 games last year, I think. A few different other players, assortment of players, of course, more notably Derek Stingley Jr. and Jalen Petrie, who are the rookies, which from, of course, LSU and Baylor, respectively. So those guys are kind of built in the Lovie mode, and the Lovie mode is cover, create turnovers. I think they're going to have a couple games where they show out, they make crucial turnovers, and I think that'll help them win some games. I think that alone will get them to at least 5 wins. And if you look at their schedule, it isn't like they're playing against the most dominant of dominance. They do have, a weaker schedule because they were a weaker team last year.
Yeah, 5-12 for the Texans. You got the Jaguars finish at 8-9, so you got a competitive AFC South. So just so in totality, Mike, so everyone knows, you got the Colts winning the division, correct?
Right.
You got them 11-6.
11-6. The Colts win the division. They got the Titans at 10-7. Colts at the Jaguars at 8-9, and the Texans bringing up the rear at 5-12. Now I will say this: it's going to be a interesting looking 8-9 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's not going to be one that's going to just stand out and be like, wow. It's going to kind of throw you off at the end of the year and be like, wow, they won 8 games. It's going to be one that kind of you're going to respond like that.
Yeah, like they're going to stick up on some people. And so you got the Colts and the Titans, both playoff teams in the AFC.
Right. I think they both have what it takes to be in the playoffs this year. I think the biggest thing that always puzzles me at times about the Titans in terms of people that look at the Titans is they don't always understand their mentality. The mentality of the Titans is, when people don't believe in them, that's when you get the best out of them, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think this year you're going to get some of the best out of some players that you probably wouldn't think of. Be like, hey, that guy played a little better than what I thought he did. This guy did this, stuff like that. You're more than likely going to see happen.
Yeah, I don't know. My AFC going to be tough. I got the Colts winning the division. I think the Titans are going to struggle this year. I think they're going to take a step back.
Well, they are going to take a step back. Just going to step back 2 games, but still make the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's the competition is stiff in the AFC. My Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, all 4 of those teams are teams that could be playoff teams in the AFC North. You got the Bengals and the Ravens. I don't think the Browns without Deshaun Watson for 11 games, but they got a complete team. We know the Buffalo Bills are a playoff team.
In the NFL, there's 16 teams, half of them make the playoffs. So somebody's going to slip up. Somebody's going to get beat down in the AFC West that we're not thinking about. And in the AFC North, they don't call it the black and blue division for nothing.
That's true. Hey, Mike, let everybody know where they can find you at on social media and find your show.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at MikePatton82. That's MikePatton 82. Of course, you can find me on Twitter, on Instagram at the THA_general_MP. You never know who could pop up on my show. I definitely got a good one for you Friday. I'm not going to tell who it is yet, but I got a good one for you Friday.
He's a columnist at the Nashville Voice, writer and reporter at Pro Player Insiders, writer at Sports Awakening, and host of the Touring the AFC South podcast. Does great work. He's Mike Patton. Mike, I appreciate you coming on Wise Guys tonight and talking the AFC South. I'm going to definitely bring you back on, later on in the season and talk more football with you.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Thank you for having me.